China's reach and influence across the globe have expanded dramatically over the past few decades, as it pursues a multi-layered strategy to establish itself as a global powerhouse. This influence spans economic, political, cultural, and even military domains, with a clear end goal of reshaping the global order to reflect its own interests, while challenging US-dominated systems. Through trade, infrastructure, technological investments, and soft power, China has built strong ties across every region, positioning itself as a critical ally, business partner, and financier. This video will explore China's influence around the world, examining its activities in various countries, its economic and political relationships, its strategic use of technology, and its plans to secure energy and resources. We will also look at how China engages culturally with different regions and assess the potential long-term impact of its growing influence. Asia, establishing regional dominance. Asia is perhaps the region most impacted by China's influence, with Beijing leveraging its proximity and economic might to secure alliances and dependencies. South Asia, building infrastructure and partnerships. In South Asia, China has concentrated on infrastructure projects and political alliances. The Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, has facilitated this, with the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, at the forefront. CPEC is a $62 billion endeavor involving the construction of roads, railways, and the development of the Gwadar port, giving China direct access to the Arabian Sea and enhancing Pakistan's infrastructure. This relationship has solidified Pakistan as a key ally, strengthening both countries' positions vis-a-vis their regional rival, India. However, the CPEC project has sparked concerns over Pakistan's rising debt to China, with critics arguing it could lead to economic dependency. In Sri Lanka, China funded the development of the Hambantota port, but Sri Lanka's debt struggle resulted in China leasing the port for 99 years. This has raised fears of debt trap diplomacy, where Chinese loans lead to strategic concessions. In the Maldives, China has invested in tourism infrastructure, housing, and environmental projects, increasing the island nation's economic reliance on Chinese investments. While these projects have boosted local economies, they have sparked concerns about debt and autonomy. Central Asia, infrastructure and security partnerships. Central Asia, historically part of the ancient Silk Road, is another focal point for China's influence, especially under the BRI. Countries like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan benefit from Chinese-built roads, pipelines, and railways. China has invested in the Kyrgyz Gateway in Kazakhstan, a critical logistics hub on the China-Kazakhstan border, facilitating trade across Eurasia. Security collaboration is another aspect of China's engagement with Central Asia. Through the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, China cooperates with these countries on counter-terrorism and regional security. This aligns with China's need to ensure stability, especially in regions near its own Xinjiang province, which has been the focus of Beijing's strict surveillance and counter-terrorism measures. Southeast Asia, balancing economic leverage and geopolitical tensions. Southeast Asia has been a fertile ground for Chinese investment and influence, with nations like Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar embracing Chinese funding for infrastructure. However, countries like Vietnam and the Philippines have more contentious relationships with China due to territorial disputes in the South China Sea. China's construction of artificial islands and deployment of military assets in the South China Sea has heightened tensions, as several Southeast Asian nations fear its growing assertiveness. Nonetheless, Southeast Asian countries often find themselves balancing relations with China and the United States. While China provides substantial economic benefits through trade and investment, the US remains a critical security ally for many of these nations, particularly those in dispute with China over maritime claims. Africa, investment, resources, and development aid. Africa is a region where China's influence is most visible, as it has invested heavily in infrastructure, mining, and energy across the continent. With projects that boost local economies, China has become Africa's largest trading partner, but these investments are not without controversy. West Africa, securing energy and infrastructure projects. In West Africa, China's investments are primarily concentrated in the energy and infrastructure sectors. Nigeria, Ghana, and Angola have all seen major Chinese investments in railways, highways, and energy facilities. Nigeria, for instance, benefits from Chinese-backed power plants and rail systems that address its infrastructure gaps. China's involvement in Nigeria's oil industry also highlights its need to secure energy resources. However, issues around environmental degradation and labor practices have arisen. In Ghana, illegal Chinese mining activities have sparked protests and caused environmental damage, raising concerns about the long-term effects of China's presence. East Africa, developing infrastructure at a cost. East Africa has seen massive Chinese investment in infrastructure, particularly in Kenya and Ethiopia. Kenya's Mombasa-Nairobi standard gauge railway, funded by China, has greatly improved trade logistics in the region. Similarly, Chinese investments in Ethiopian industrial parks and urban infrastructure have contributed to rapid economic growth. Yet, these projects come with high levels of debt. Kenya's debt to China has led to fears that critical assets, such as the port of Mombasa, might be seized if loan payments cannot be met. This has prompted discussions about the sustainability of Chinese financed projects and the risk of debt dependency. North Africa, expanding influence in strategic regions. China has strengthened its ties with North African countries like Egypt, Algeria, and Morocco, where it is a key partner in infrastructure and energy. In Egypt, China is a primary partner in the Suez Canal Economic Zone, a critical part of the BRI. These projects not only align with Egypt's economic goals but also provide China a foothold in the Mediterranean. Morocco and Algeria have also benefited from Chinese investments in renewable energy projects. Through these partnerships, China has established a strategic presence in North Africa, facilitating access to the Mediterranean and positioning itself as a significant player in the region. Europe, investment, technology, and divisive influence. Europe presents unique challenges for China, as it is a highly developed region with strong regulatory frameworks. However, China has still managed to make substantial inroads, particularly through investments in technology, infrastructure, and acquisitions. Western Europe, strategic investments and technology transfer. In Western Europe, China has invested in sectors like technology, automotive, and real estate. Germany, Europe's economic powerhouse, is a critical partner, with Chinese firms investing in companies like Daimler and KUKA, a robotics leader. These investments give China access to advanced technology and expertise, essential for its own industrial ambitions. In the UK, China's involvement in nuclear power projects, including Hinkley Point, and its investments in real estate have stirred debates about foreign control over essential infrastructure. The UK has also grappled with the risks associated with Huawei's role in its 5G network, ultimately leading to restrictions amid security concerns. Eastern Europe, building infrastructure and political ties. China has increased its influence in Eastern Europe through the 17+1 initiative, which targets Central and Eastern European countries for infrastructure and development projects. In Serbia, China's investment in the Belgrade-Budapest railway is seen as a step toward creating a seamless logistics network for Chinese goods entering Europe. Greece, particularly the port of Piraeus, has become a vital gateway for Chinese products into Europe. This economic engagement has led to political divides within the EU, with some Western nations viewing China's growing influence in Eastern Europe as a potential risk to European unity. Latin America, trade, resources, and military partnerships. Latin America is a region where China's influence has increased significantly, driven by its need for resources and new markets. South America, trade dependencies and strategic investments. South America has become a major source of agricultural products and raw materials for China. Brazil is a top trading partner, exporting soybeans, iron ore, and oil to meet China's high demand. China has also invested in renewable energy and mining in Argentina and Chile. For example, Chinese firms have stakes in Chile's lithium mines, securing a supply of this essential material for electric vehicles. While these partnerships boost South American economies, they also increase dependency on China, with many countries in the region heavily reliant on Chinese demand. In Ecuador, for example, Chinese-built hydroelectric plants provide a significant portion of the country's energy, but these projects have led to environmental and social concerns. Central America and the Caribbean, expanding economic and military presence. In Central America and the Caribbean, China's investments in infrastructure and tourism have established it as a major player in a region traditionally influenced by the United States. The Panama Canal is a strategic asset for China, allowing efficient trade between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Since Panama established diplomatic relations with China, Chinese investments in the canal and surrounding areas have increased. In the Caribbean, countries like the Bahamas, Jamaica, and Trinidad and Tobago have welcomed Chinese funding for tourism and infrastructure projects, which supports local economies but increases the region's dependence on China. Middle East, securing energy and building strategic partnerships. China's Middle Eastern strategy is largely driven by its need for energy, with the region supplying much of China's oil. However, China has also leveraged its neutral stance to develop relationships with countries across the political spectrum, from Saudi Arabia to Iran. Energy dependence and infrastructure development. China imports oil from Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, and the UAE, making the Middle East a vital region for its energy security. To strengthen these relationships, China has invested in infrastructure projects, such as the Khalifa port in the UAE and industrial zones in Saudi Arabia. Military cooperation and diplomatic balance. China's military cooperation with Middle Eastern countries has also grown, particularly with Iran. This cooperation allows China to maintain stability along its trade routes while positioning itself as an alternative to the US in the region. North America, strategic investments and cultural influence. China's influence in North America is comparatively limited due to heightened scrutiny, but it has made strategic investments, particularly in Canada's mining and energy sectors. Chinese tech giants have sought to enter the US and Canadian markets, although political tensions have limited their success. Cultural diplomacy and tourism are also tools China uses to engage with North American audiences, despite significant barriers. China's long-term vision. China's global strategy is a comprehensive, multi-pronged approach aimed at establishing itself as a dominant global power. Through economic investments, diplomatic engagement, cultural outreach, and strategic partnerships, China has strengthened its influence across nearly every region. It appears committed to creating a multipolar world where it stands as a leading power, promoting its governance model as an alternative to Western liberalism. China's ambitions could reshape the world order, but its success will depend on managing complex relationships, addressing concerns about debt and dependency, and navigating tensions with the United States. As China continues to expand its influence, the geopolitical landscape will be shaped for decades to come. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos.